Good evening, everyone. We're glad to see you here. We have Emily and Carl doing their visit to Milwaukee and Wisconsin, and they've spent a week there. I think that's what you said, Emily, right?
About a week.
And they have a lot to tell you about. And if you are one of the ones doing a grab bag, you also have a short bibliography. If you don't have a grab bag and you want the bibliography, you can email me and I can always send it to you because we put our email in all our stuff, but it's tjandrews at aol.com. But we are very happy to have Emily here, and it's interesting to know that not everybody's been to Milwaukee or Wisconsin. So you're in for wonderful surprises. Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm Emily. I'm the adult support and co-chair of the travel program. And this is my fiance, Carl.
Nice to meet you all.
About 2 years ago, we went on a trip to Milwaukee. So here we have our wonderful Milwaukee travels. Okay, so you probably want to know why we went. So we went over a period, and there are two main reasons why we went. The first was that Carl wanted to go to a press association event called in Road America, Elkhart Lake. And the other reason was that we were invited to the wedding of Carl's childhood friend James. And so we both wanted to see him on his special day. And so just for context, this is just a lovely map of Wisconsin with Elkhart Lake. I know it looks like Elkhart Lake is the capital. It's not. We all know, a lot of us know that it's Madison, but I just wanted to have this map as a reference from Milwaukee to Elkhart Lake. Another fact is that the typewriter, Carmex lip balm, and the first commercially successful answering machine were invented here. And the world's largest music festival is held here, and it's called Summerfest. Apparently, annually, over 800,000 people come, and that's pretty amazing. And I think the most interesting fact I came up with is that there's literally a lake underneath the city, and yes, for reals, it's called Lake Emily.
Yay!
Yeah, it's under the Northwestern Mutual's building in Wisconsin. I don't know if I ever came across that building when we were there, but I find that very amusing there and amazing. So let's get started with our travels. So let's start off with day one. Day one was just the day where we drove from Rochester Hills, Michigan to Brookfield, which is in Metro West Milwaukee. And after Carl dropped me off at the hotel, he drove another hour to Elkhart Lake to attend the event at Road America.
And we also managed to save a little money on driving too. We did not drive our personal vehicle up there. I actually had a press loan from Lincoln at the time, so we drove there in a Lincoln Nautilus that I happened to have from them at the time.
Yes, and it was fun driving through, especially Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah. But I will hand off to Carl so he could talk about Road America.
All righty, thank you, Emily. Before I talk about Road America, figured I'd give a brief introduction to myself. I see a few familiar faces that I might have met during my various visits to Clarkston, but for those that have not met me before, my name is Carl. I am Emily's fiance, and I am actually an automotive journalist, and I contribute for a couple of websites, and I will be putting links to both of them in the chat box in case if any of you are interested in the world of automobiles, or if you know a youngster that happens to be obsessed with the subject, I will be putting those links in the chat box, so keep an eye out for them. Anywho, for this chunk of the trip, I am going to be discussing my particular time at Road America. Thank you, Emily. I'm a PC person, so it's a little different doing things on an Apple computer. But anywho, as for Road America itself, Road America Raceway is a 4-mile long road course, and it's also part of the broader Road America Race Complex. In addition to the aforementioned road course, they also have a go-kart track, an off-road course for off-road vehicles, and they also do other forms of racing. They've done motorcycle.
Yeah. I'm there. Can all the people here mute themselves? It's a little distracting with some of the stuff going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Emily. Anyway, as I was saying, the Road America Race Complex is actually pretty large, but the bulk of my time over at Road America was mainly situated on both the main road course as well as the go-kart track. The facility was built in 1955, and it actually sits on 640 acres of former farmland. A fun fact about the facility, it's actually not too far away from the Kettle Moraine Scenic Route. This route links both sections of the Kettle Moraine State Forest, and some of our road route that we got to take around Elkhart Lake and the surrounding area actually does use small sections of the scenic route. So we got to see some really beautiful scenery when we were out and about in the various cars. As in addition to the state forest, the track itself is also home to multiple species of wildlife. There have been pheasants sighted on the track, fox, and the track does have a sizable deer population. And as you can imagine, when you're out on the track, especially in certain sections, you did have to pay extra attention for that particular animal when going high speeds. As you can imagine, some sections of the track, you can easily top 110, 120 miles an hour. And it's not fun to hit a deer in a car that is not yours at triple digits. On this picture here is the main entryway to Road America. I was unable to find a picture of the overhead view of the track, but if you look at the sides of the tunnel, you can actually see the basic track layout on either side for the main road course. That is one of the vehicles that was in attendance at the event. And essentially, what happened here is we had various automakers bring some of their newest vehicles out to the track. And pretty much if you were an attendee and if you had driving privileges, you could literally walk up to any vehicle you choose, hop in, and take it for a drive. They had people positioned at the entry and exit ways of the course, and they used mobile technology to help keep track of what car was in and what car was out at any particular time. And that car right there just happens to be the Elantra GT that I happened to be in during that particular time of the day. And you might be wondering why I was at Road America. As mentioned by Emily a little earlier, I was there to attend a press event. This press event is called the Spring Rally, and it's actually held by the Midwest Automotive Media Association, MAMA for short. As you can imagine, before COVID became an all too real reality, this event was held every May at the track, and we were generally there for 2 days. This event serves a multitude of purposes. The main one being that we got to evaluate numerous automobiles in multiple driving scenarios, albeit on the road or on the track itself. And in addition to that, the spring rally, as well as the accompanying fall rally later in the year, is where members evaluate candidates from the field for several awards. typically at Spring Rally, we look for our luxury vehicle of the year, as well as our family vehicle of the year. The family vehicle of the year is actually a very key accomplishment for an automaker, and it's a very big deal when one of their vehicles wins this particular honor. Last but not least, the Spring Rally is also a good networking opportunity for us. As you can imagine, one of the core attributes of being a journalist is building solid press relations. And in this instance, it allowed us to get in touch with some of the public relations people, as well as some of the fleet management people for the various companies. So it also serves as a good opportunity for us to build solid working relationships with the automakers, which is a must. During the event, all the attendees were rewarded with a free stay over at the Ossoff Resort and Hotel in Elkhart Lake. Due to the number of attendees, as well as the size of the event itself, the rooms were split between 2 journalists, and each room was then split into 2 suites. Each had identical accommodations: a bedroom, a bathroom, and a space for us to do our work. The resort itself is actually a very nice place to spend time. You get a very good view from Elkhart Lake.
I'm going to tell her we'll pick her up at 8.
Excuse me, do you mind muting yourselves? For all the people that are here, do you mind muting yourselves? Thank you.
Alrighty, thank you for that again, Emily. As I was saying, the resort does give you a good view of Elkhart Lake, and there's also a number of luxurious amenities and other benefits that the resort brings to the table. For example, for folks that are looking to have a good bite to eat, the Elk Room, as well as, I just need you to move the text box a little bit, Emily. Thank you. Otto's Restaurant and the Elk Room are 2 of the good restaurants that the resort has, and both of them have really good food. And also for people that are looking to relax, maybe have a massage, the resort is also home to Aspira Spa. And this right here is a picture of the resort. You can't quite see Elkhart Lake in this shot, but you do get to see some of the other amenities in the resort. They have walking trails. You do have a number of swimming pools. And you can even see some of the outdoor dining that you can partake if you choose to go to one of the restaurants. I believe in this picture, that particular outdoor dining area is by Otto's. So the next question you might be asking is what it's like out on the track driving it. And it's actually a very interesting experience. The first day of Spring Rally is actually our only opportunity where we are allowed to drive on the track. And this is actually a very key thing to remember, because some of the vehicles at the event are designated for track use only. To help us know which vehicle could go where, they had a color-coded category system on the windshield of each car, and that color coding was also accompanied with a letter designation. For example, T and a red color was for track, and then any other color was for road tests and other kinds of testing. Excuse me. As for my trip on the course itself, the course that we had laid out is roughly what many race drivers would experience. It's a largely unaltered route around the track. The only exception is that the event organizers do put in 2 chicanes in the main straight. And for those that are not really familiar with the world of motor racing, essentially what a chicane is it's usually a short turn or a corner. And the idea is it's supposed to slow you down. And the chicanes at Road America, they put those on the main straight. and that is to help prevent excess speeds, which in turn helps prevent accidents out on the track as well. Safety at the facility and the track too is very paramount with the mama reps. And all drivers that are new to the track, for example, a lot of first-time attendees, they do go through a safety meeting, and you also have to do a parade lap around the track with a professional driver. And the idea here is it's to help you get acclimated with the track, where the corners are, where the rumble strips are, and just so that way you can get around the track safely. My few times on the course, as mentioned, were very exciting. And in some sections of the track, it really does push your driving skills. A lot of sharp corners. There are elevation changes at the very middle of the course. And it's a very demanding test of your attention as well as your visual planning. You do have to sometimes plan out your turns in advance so you don't go off the course. For me, that was especially true because I did actually get to drive an Acura NSX around the track. And the NSX, as you can imagine, is a very powerful supercar. So like with other vehicles of its type, you do have to be very careful when you're out driving it on the course. And here's a picture of it as well. I did do a review on this one. And when you go through the links that I will provide later, you will find a link to that review buried in my author biography. As mentioned, the spring rally event was a 2-day affair. So for day 2, it took a little bit of a different tune. Day 2, we were not on the track, but we also got to do individual experiences. We were allowed to have a say in what experience we wanted to do, but ultimately the event organizers made the final decision. So in that regard, you could either go on the off-road course and drive around in, say, an off-road SUV or a vehicle, or a small autocross course out on the go-kart track, where you could take some of the less powerful track vehicles, as well as a few of the vehicles that the automakers would bring for autocross only. Fiat Chrysler is a well-known company that does tend to have a surprise or two for the autocross attendees. Being an experienced autocross driver myself, I was very grateful that I was able to go to the autocross section. And as mentioned, the autocross section is located on the go-kart track for Road America. And before I go on further into that, for those that want a sense of what the structure was like, the individual experiences, it was like a hub. You got to go from one experience to the other, and then the evaluation area for family vehicle of the year was like the core hub where everyone met up and where everyone ultimately ended up at some point during the day. But autocross itself, it's essentially a time attack type event. The course is laid out with cones. The cones can vary in size, but usually they use about a medium-sized traffic cone to form the boundaries of the track. And essentially the idea is and they do have several vehicles that they allowed us to drive, and including my personal favorite, a Maserati Levante Trofeo sport utility vehicle. I'll admit that while I did hit a cone or two with this large super SUV, as you can imagine, it was very big. It was a real treat slicing through the corners with it, and hearing the V8 in some of the long straightaways was really cool too. And here's a picture of the Levante Trofeo in question. And you can also see the category system that they had on the windshield, the color, the letter coding, and then as well as other numbering that was used mainly for the registration process when we were checking vehicles in and out on the first day.
All right.
So with that out of the way, I will go ahead and hand the reins back over to Emily, and she will tell you about her adventures in Milwaukee. As you can imagine, it will be a contrast. So while I was out shredding corners, she was out hitting the books. So Emily, take it away.
All right, let's get back to Milwaukee, shall we? So for the second day that I was in Milwaukee, I visited Karen, my mom's cousin who happened to live in Brookfield, for lunch. We went to a nice Mexican restaurant, and that's where we took our little selfie at. And it was a very nice lunch. Then I was going to take the bus over to the Milwaukee Public Museum when she had suggested driving me over there, and I was very appreciative of that. So these are two photos that I took, or actually, they were from the internet. So one is the front of the big stuff there. Like, they do have this mammoth, which is literally the oldest surviving mammoth, and actually the bones actually revealed that the mammoth had died by 14,500 years ago, which actually predates what people normally assumed when humans were there. Like, normally people assume that humans were in America like 13,000 years ago. But it's because of the marks on the bones, like butcher marks, that we know that humans were around for much longer than that. And it's actually one of the most complete versions of the mammoth that we have, and that's pretty awesome.
I bet it tasted good.
You would do that. But yeah. Anyway, the Milwaukee Public Museum also wanted to let you know about its sustainability efforts, and I thought that was really cool. And they also had a brief history about the city of Milwaukee itself, judging by these photos here, like the first citizens, and about what Milwaukee was like back at the turn of the century. And they actually had a traveling exhibit about the power of poison, which I thought that was pretty neat. So these are some of the photos I took where it shows the pros and cons of using poison. The cons being at the top for obvious reasons, and then the benefits down at the bottom. And let me tell you, the Milwaukee Public Museum loves dioramas. Like, this is a good example. This is a diorama of Native Americans, I think from various tribes, in a powwow. And on the photo on the left, it shows you the tribes that did reside in Wisconsin at some point. And the photo on the right is just acknowledging their residence in Wisconsin. Oh, hey Simba! Now, you're probably wondering, that might be a joke from The Lion King. Well, yes and no. As I mentioned, it really likes its dioramas, and a part of the museum is dedicated to dioramas of the 7 continents. And here, this photo was taken in the Africa section of those dioramas. And Simba, the one with the mane on it, was, and I kid you not, was a real lion that resided in the Milwaukee Public Museum when it shared a building with the Milwaukee Public Library.
I couldn't believe it either.
Exactly. Long story short, in the late 20s, the museum actually traveled out to Africa to get some specimens for their collections. And they came across Simba, who happened to be an orphan cub, and they decided to take it back to Milwaukee. And so it resided in the taxidermy department. Let's just foreshadow it a little later. And it resided there for, I think for some months, maybe up to a year, until it had some instances where it had problems with his teeth. Apparently it bit on something and it caused damage to his teeth. So he was transported to the Washington Park Zoo, which he resided there until 1943, when he died at the age of 14. After his death, the Milwaukee decided to taxidermy him and put him into this diorama here. So this is where his legacy lives on, in this diorama. And I'm glad I actually did my research before going to Milwaukee, so I can show you all this wonderful photo of Simba. And there is actually once you actually get to know a little more about Milwaukee, you'll understand it really likes its animal mascots. And I'll tell you a little bit more about them later on. And another section of the Milwaukee Public Museum is the Liker butterfly wing, which it was a really beautiful butterfly wing. Like I managed to get a picture of just a butterfly on the upper left-hand corner, and it looks just so pretty there. So yeah, the museum itself is just full of a variety of things, and I'm just glad I was able to take advantage of that. And not too far away from the museum was the Milwaukee Public Library, where it stands now. So I just went in there for a bit. Like on the left, you see a statue of Ben Franklin, and on the photo on the right, you have RPG. They had a display of a bunch of nerdy games. I think they had like some display of like Risk or even D&D at in one of those display cases. And what did I tell you? And yes, Milwaukee does have its animal mascots, and the articles on the photo on the right do detail more about Simba the Lion's Stay, or what he was known as was Sim, because apparently when he was transported to the zoo, there was another lion named Simba. So to differentiate him, they called him the museum lion Sim. And you'll get to hear a little more about one of those animal mascots a little later on. And here's the rotunda to the library, which is just a wonderful, beautiful staircase there. It's just gorgeous. Just kind of reminds me of a little bit of like Phantom of the Opera, except without the chandelier. And here is the entryway to the children's wing of the library, where on the left you actually see quotes from famous children's books. And on the right, it's literally the entryway, which if you actually see the photo in the upper right-hand corner, once you go in, that's where you'll see the quotes. Like it's literally plastered onto an entire wall. And I thought that was pretty neat. It does make it stand out from a lot of other children's rooms and libraries. And so after my day at the library, I decided to walk a little bit in downtown Milwaukee, and it does like a lot of its statues, including the ones seen here, and it also likes a lot of its churches. Now, those statues and these churches were all along Wisconsin Avenue, and these are some gorgeous looking churches there. All right, now we go to day 3 in Milwaukee. So for the third day, I spent a good chunk of it, a little bit in downtown Milwaukee, passing by the Children's Museum. I didn't go in, but I think it would be interesting to go to, like, if you have kids. And then another really unique looking statue called The Calling at O'Donnell Park. And in the back there is the museum I went to, which is the Milwaukee Art Museum. Now, if any of you took the trivia question from the Clarkson Library today, you'll know that there was a question regarding this museum. It is, as far as I know, the only museum that actually moves. As in, you see the wings in the middle photo, they're the Calatrava, and they actually open the wings in the morning, and they actually close the wings at night. And I actually posted the YouTube links where you can actually see the wings opening and closing. Now, I went there at a certain time. Unfortunately, they were having some issues opening up the wings, so I didn't actually see them like in person. It sucks, but that's why I put the YouTube links on there. And as for the art museum itself, is pretty much what you expect of an art museum. It's got its classical flavors. It's got its all around the world, European, Asian, all that stuff. It's got its antiques, it's got its contemporary art, it's got its very weird art, especially with Pabst Blue Ribbon, because you gotta acknowledge the alcohol legacy that is of Milwaukee there. And you've got your suit of armor, very classic, very antique-like, very old. And then you also have some nice paintings like this lady here, and even a Norman Rockwell painting on the right there. And you got the painting of Georgia O'Keeffe on the left, and then a contemporary photo taken on the right. And then I spent a little more time in downtown Milwaukee, where I took some very photos of very unusual statues there. But hey, it likes its statues. I mean, but then you can say that with any city, but will you see any other statues like this in anywhere else? So, and another question I brought up in trivia was about the Milwaukee River Skywalk. And this is actually true. This is the only one that actually exists over boat traffic, which, as you can see, there is a boat literally passing underneath the skywalk, which I thought that was pretty cool. And the photos that are surrounding that one are just placards about historic Milwaukee. Ah, yes. So this is Gertie the Duck. I mean, more specifically, a statue of Gertie the Duck. Have any of you heard the story of Gertie the Duck? You can just like raise your hands or... Okay. Sounds like, well, you're in for a treat. Here's a little story about Gertie the Duck. At the end of World War II, so let's say April of 1945, there was a person that came across a bridge. Well, came across a duck that was underneath a bridge that was covering her 9 eggs. Like, despite like the people just like walking over the bridge, driving over the bridge, and she was protecting those eggs with all of her life. This word got out about this duck that it first appeared in the local newspapers, then it appeared in the state newspapers, and then the news spread about Gertie all across the nation. People really wanted to know how the duck was doing, and how, like, were the eggs going to hatch? Will the little ducklings be all right? And luckily, 6 of them hatched, and all was good. And in fact, Gertie's story was so popular, it actually made into 2 books, as well as an episode, I believe it was of a documentary series done in the 60s. It was really nice, it was pretty cool, and that's why Gertie the Duck has a statue right here near the River Skywalk. It's like I said before, Milwaukee loves its animal mascots.
It sure does.
Mm-hmm. So day 4 was when Carl had reunited. So we were reunited at the end of day 3, and day 4, we decided to spend a good chunk of our day at the Harley-Davidson Museum.
Yes, a funny story about how we were made aware of this museum. A little prior to this, me and Emily traveled to a bar out in Racine, Wisconsin. Racine, as you can imagine, it's deep in Wisconsin farm country, so you get a lot of dairy farms, a lot of cornfields, and we traveled to a bar called the Nowhere Pub. And we talked with some of the people at the pub, and a few of the bikers there happened to recommend us to go do the Harley-Davidson Museum. So after that, me and Emily did make some plans to travel out and check it out.
All right, and we'll show you some of the photos that we took. So this is allegedly the very first motorcycle ever made. As you can see, it's basically a bicycle from the time it was, the placard said it was like made like in 1903. So it was a bicycle from its time with, I believe, like a little engine that they put in there. You would say so?
Yes, the lone thing with this particular example is even though Harley specialists are pretty confident that it's the first Harley motorcycle ever made, they are not entirely sure. And that's because a key thing on some of the mechanical components is that you have serial numbers. And those serial numbers can give you a pretty good idea of when it's built. And if they match, then you can get a pretty good clue of the age. Because of the fact that there are different serial numbers on this particular bike, they're not entirely sure if it's indeed the first. but they can confidently say that it is one of the earliest Harley models ever built.
All right. So I took some other photos of the evolution of their motorcycles. On the photos on the left were other motorcycles that were made after the one that Carl had just described, from like 1906 to 1909. And on the right, you have some Harley Davidson motorcycles in the 1920s, which you can kind of see the evolution between 20 years. And these are some of the Harley Davidson motorcycles used during World War II, which I thought that was pretty amazing that they were able to contribute in that way. And of course, here's some more motorcycles, like the one from 1947 on the left, and the one on the right from 1955. And yes, Harley Davidson made a scooter. Yes, called the Harley Davidson Topper.
Yes, I can shed a little bit more light on the Topper itself. Back in the 1960s, a big trend in motorcycle design, as well as motorcycles in general, was the types of scooters you'd see in Italy, like your Vespas, similar sized scooters like that. And Harley wanted to try and grab a slice of that market for itself. So one of the ways they did this was they built the Topper here in the early 1960s. Unfortunately, the Topper, it did not do that well in sales, but Harley did manage to move a few of them during its brief time in production.
And it's the only scooter that Harley Davidson ever built. The photo on the left is of the original owners of the Harley Davidson Company, including Harley and then the brothers Davidson. And on the right here is actually the first meeting notes ever taken at their formation in 1907. Is that crazy to think about? And here is a wall of colored fuel tank covers. They just looked really cool, so I just took a couple photos of them.
Yes, and the fuel tank covers themselves, not only were they ordered roughly by color, but they were also roughly ordered by the particular era of Harley Davidson. So as you went along the wall, you saw stuff from, say, the 1950s, all the way up to even the 1980s and the 1990s as well. So it was a very interesting, but a very colorful retrospective of how even a design of something as simple as the fuel tank cover evolved for Harley over the years.
And here are some of the toys that Harley Davidson produced that utilized their motorcycles. I just thought that was pretty cool. And here are some motorcycles that they attached to some ramps and walls.
Yes. Now for this, I won't go too crazy into the explanation, but the center picture in particular, back in the, I believe it's the 1920s, 1930s, wooden oval racing for motorcycles was very big. You had tracks for some of these events built all over the nation, and it was a very dangerous form of racing. Sometimes you'd have accidents between underriders, and then because the track itself was made out of wood, sometimes you'd actually have literal pieces of the track either fly at you or fall away from underneath you. So as you can imagine, it was a very dangerous spectacle, but for a brief period, it did draw in a number of fans, and it was actually kind of a national craze for a little while. But eventually, the practice and the sport itself faded away. So as you look at each of the three photos here, you can see some of the bikes that were specially designed to do this type of racing, as well as a small reconstructed section of the track to give you an idea of the type of surface they're on, as well as the angle of the track itself.
Mm-hmm. I just wanted to show the other motorcycles that were attached to the ramp there. And while we're at the end of the museum, they actually had a display of their more modern ones that were, I think, were produced within the last 10 years, and
Mhm.
this is us on one of them.
Yeah, we found a very nice visitor visiting with us, and she was kind enough to actually take a photo of us together on this green Harley trike.
Yep. And before we move on from the Harley Davidson Museum, I also wanted to point out that they did actually list motorcycles that were featured in a bunch of films, like I believe Terminator and Easy Rider. So they displayed and just acknowledged that the history with Harley Davidsons in movies. And right across the museum was the Motor Bar and Restaurant. And of course, the thing to do in Wisconsin is have cheese curds. And they were delicious, along with this lovely burger there. I mean, this was where I suggested to Carl that the most Wisconsin thing to do was eat your cheese curds while you're riding a Harley Davidson motorcycle.
Yes, you did. And as you can see too, there's nothing wrong with adding bacon to any kind of food item. I think that was my burger that I ordered with the bacon. And the Motor Bar and Restaurant, if you're ever at the museum and you're looking to grab some lunch, I definitely recommend checking it out. You guys will love it.
Absolutely. So later on that day, we went to the Milwaukee River Walk again, or at least I showed Carl his first time, while it was my second time. And while we were there, as you see, this is literally a statue of the Fonz. Hey! I mean, it makes sense since the show Happy Days did actually take place in Milwaukee, as so did Laverne and Shirley. And I'm sure there's probably other bunch of shows that took place in Wisconsin one way or another. But it was nice to actually see the Fawn statue in person. But the main reason why we went over to the Riverwalk was that we went to this lovely restaurant called the Safe House Restaurant. It was recommended from my friend Libby to attend this, and in order to get in, you had to have a password. If you didn't, then they will make you do silly things before you actually enter the restaurant itself. But once you got past all that, you like sit down, and they actually had a lot of memorabilia related to spy stuff, and even at one point, you actually got to do like this. What was it, like this little...
It was essentially it was like a mini activity that they had in the restaurant. Throughout the restaurant itself, the inside is actually a lot bigger than it looks on the outside. You had various clues that were scattered about the restaurant, and the goal for the activity was you had to try and find all the clues, and you were trying to construct a secret message, I believe. And if you're able to do that, then you got a shirt or a gift card or any other small prize that they happen to have. It's a very fun activity if you ever get the chance to do it.
Yep. And then after our dinner there, we went over to the gift shop at the Safe House and got us some shirts to commemorate our time at the Safe House restaurant. So now we have day 5. Day 5 was the wedding of Carl's childhood friend, and the bride and groom there are on the left, looking so happy after the ceremony was officially done. And the ceremony itself was at the Old St. Mary Parish. So this was in downtown Milwaukee. I think it was close to Wisconsin Avenue. I'm not sure, but
I think it was pretty close. I'm not sure it was directly on it, but it was pretty close.
yeah. But it was a lovely ceremony, and as far as I know, James and Allie are doing well as they became new parents recently. But look at them so happy on their official wedding.
It was
day.
a special day. I will say that it was a very special day.
Yeah, I bet it was. Then afterwards, the wedding reception was at Discovery World, but right before they opened up, we spent some time on the Milwaukee Cargo Pier, as they were just getting ready for the reception itself. So we just spent some time just looking out over the pier, and there was some kite stuff going on, and it was just a beautiful sight to see. And here is Discovery World. Discovery World is actually not too far away from the art museum, and it was really cool, like seeing all the stuff. It's a science and technology museum, and so you got to see like a lot of science technology, particularly when it comes to water I mean, it makes sense. It's right on the water. And they had a nice big room for the reception, and it was just a wonderful day and a wonderful night for that wedding.
And the Discovery World also, unfortunately, we did not get a chance to see it this time, but Discovery World does have a pretty well-renowned aquarium in it as well. But again, due to the constraints of the reception and where they had it, we were unable to see the aquarium section of Discovery World this particular visit.
Yeah, makes sense. And here's us at the wedding, just drinking some spotted cow.
Yes, and essentially, Spotted Cow is actually a Wisconsin exclusive beer. You can only buy it in Wisconsin. They do not sell it outside the state. New Glarus Brewing, the company that makes Spotted Cow, as well as a couple of other beers, they are very proud of their Wisconsin heritage, and they're also very keen on keeping that heritage. They will go after people legally if you try and sell New Glarus products outside the state. And that was actually proven relatively recently. They had a couple of gentlemen in Minnesota try and sell Spotted Cow outside of Wisconsin state lines, and the brewery, in keeping with their reputation for having a strong local identity, promptly went after them in court. But if you are in Wisconsin and have a chance to have Spotted Cow, I highly recommend it. It actually has a very distinct but good flavor, and it's certainly a great drink to sip on, especially if you're killing time watching a basketball game or even any other sporting event while you're down in Wisconsin.
Mm-hmm. And then came our final day in Milwaukee and in Wisconsin in general. Before we left, there were a couple things that we did that I would like to talk about. The first was for those who don't know, I run a book review website called Book Reviews by a Person Who Reads Everything. And the gentleman on the left there, his name is John Blakowski. He was an author that had contacted me a while back to review one of his books. And while I was prepping to take the trip to Milwaukee, I realized that he actually is from Milwaukee. So what I did was that I contacted him to do an interview. And so this was the day that we did the interview at a local Barnes & Noble. And I was able to post the transcript of that onto the Facebook page of my website, of my book review Facebook page.
And I did what any supporting spouse would do. I said good luck and then promptly stayed out of the way and roamed the rest of the mall for a few hours while Emily was interviewing John.
Yes. And if you ever wanted to read, if you ever wanted to know what kind of author he is, he writes what's known as informal essays. As in, they're essays that are kind of stream of consciousness, very humorous. And they are just things that are completely different. And so now we come across Route 20 House. This is a restaurant that we encountered in Racine while we were leaving Wisconsin.
Yes, I happened to find this restaurant on a prior trek to Wisconsin, about a year prior to this particular trip. And people that get to know me well enough, I'm actually very picky with restaurants. I like going to local places. And I was given a good word about Route 20 from a gentleman that I met over in Elkhart Lake. And Route 20, you can essentially think of it as kind of like a hybrid honky-tonk slash music bar. They are known for stand-up comedy, and befitting the theme, they're also known for having some really good local country cover bands and the occasional local country star come by and perform.
And while we were there, we had some wonderful steak salad, which I never would have expected that steak and salad would actually go together, but they actually did.
I had to convince her at first to try it, but she tried it and her mind was blown.
She
really loved it.
Especially with the ranch. steak, salad, and ranch. Perfect. And of course, we had to finish it with some cheesecake, because you can never go wrong with cheesecake, especially from us cheesecake nerds. And then once we were done at that restaurant, we drove 6 hours back to Rochester Hills, and that, sadly, was the end of our travels.
For now.
For now. And if you want to find more information about our travels, feel free to contact me at this email address, and I'll be able to answer whatever questions you have. But I'm sure you guys will probably want to have more questions right now. So let me stop this share here. All right, perfect.
And before we get into the questions, as I mentioned prior in my slice of the presentation, I will be putting the web addresses for both of the sites that I contribute for in the chat box. So if you're looking to check it out, keep an eye in the chat box, and I will have the links for those in the chat box.
All right. So let's see, what time is it now? It is close to 8 o'clock. Do you guys want to do a quick 5-minute break right now?
It's up to you, Emily. We can do that.
Okay, yeah, I think a 5-minute break would be nice. So then Carl can put up his links that he works on, and I can put up my book review website as well. So we'll resign back in 5 minutes.
I'll go ahead and get some water.
All right, sounds good.
It was good.
Oh, thank you.
We had some come and go. So we had 10 altogether, but not Betty. I didn't see her.
Must have been busy or something. That's all right. We'll still have links on the YouTube page. And I did send the YouTube link for last month's to Katrina, so I don't know if she's put that on yet, but I'll probably wait a week before asking Bill to make this into a YouTube link.
Are we going to count her dog?
Yes.
Are we going to count her dog?
Hey, I mean, she said she
Right.
gave us the permission. I'm going to head to the bathroom. I'll be right back.
Alrighty.
Joanne, your hair looks really nice.
Who said that?
Teresa, it's Teresa.
Thank you. Actually, for me, it's getting long.
Yeah, it is long.
When I was younger, I had curls all the time. And by the time I was in high school, they disappeared.
Oh.
So now I'm getting the waves back. But no curls.
Yeah, my hair, it's a little weird. Like, usually I keep it straight most of the time, but my mom has curly hair, and when I let my hair grow out a little bit, that's when my curls show up.
Yeah, men don't usually like that, do they?
Yeah, I mean, I don't mind. It's just for me, I like to try and keep a straight hair, you know, for professionalism reasons, as well as Zoom call related reasons too.
And your things are behind the chat, your information about your
Yes,
job?
both websites that I personally contribute to. I posted those in the chat box, and then Emily went ahead and posted a link to her book review page as well.
Oh, the one that's the chick that raised everything?
Yep.
Yeah.
She really does read everything. I actually know the president of Mama very well, and I actually gave Emily a book about the entire manufacturing process of Rolls-Royce vehicles for her to read. So she's been pretty engrossed in that on top of her other titles that she's working on.
Hmm. Yeah, she does a good job on her reviews. Teresa, did you notice that I sent you the bibliography?
Yes, I was checking that out beforehand.
Okay. Are you in Charlevoix?
No, I leave this weekend, so I'll be up there
Okay.
this weekend. It is going to rain, but there's going to be so much else to do there.
Yeah, there's a really lot to do. If we didn't have the cottage on the other side of the lake, at one point we had land and we were going to build there,
Mhm.
but then we decided we couldn't have both, so we sold the land we had up there.
Ah. Yeah, I'm really excited to see the mushroom houses.
Yeah, that's really nice. What's really exciting though, anywhere around up there and around Traverse Lake, people that know where to look in the woods for the morel mushrooms, that's a real treat.
Ooh, and those are out right now, aren't they?
Yep, because it's
They
rained
are.
a lot.
Wow.
And,
Okay.
and my husband and I, we used to, well, he knew a lot because his mother always got mushrooms
Mhm.
and would pick them. But with the morels, you cut them in half and you dry them. You can keep them for years. And then when you're ready to eat them, you just put them in water until the water's clear and they
Mhm.
come back. So I still have a beer stein with a cover on it with morels from 25 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I'm very skimpy how much I serve people
Mhm.
because I can't, go in the woods hunting anymore. And if
Yeah.
you buy them from the side of the road, it's expensive. And if you buy them in the store, it's almost out of your price range.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I'll have to do that. I'll have to go into the woods and look for some.
Just remember, there are some poisonous ones that are morels. There's
Oh,
good,
there are.
Yeah,
Okay.
there's good black and brown ones, but if you get a book, it'll explain which
Okay. I'll have
ones
to.
are poisonous.
Yeah,
And
I'll have to read up on that.
Yeah, we don't want you not to come back. We want to have you here.
So we need you to come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Teresa, you should try a side trip to Beaver Island when you're there. That'd be kind of cool.
Oh, really? Are the shuttles running or the boats are running right now?
That I don't know, but the Emerald
Okay.
Isle is the ferry that runs that route, and I did it in the summer of 2000.
Okay.
And it's actually really neat because some of the history of Beaver Island, there was a some Mormon king that had some type of presence or relation to the island. I can't recall exactly what that history is, but I remember it being really kind of an oddball tidbit of Michigan history.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I remember hearing that. I don't know if we heard that in one of our travel talks, but you're right. I'm going to have to look that up now.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the island where he made himself king, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Wow.
Island was like the only like monarchy in the United States.
Exactly. Yep.
To Beaver Island in 2015 for a cataloging internship.
Yeah, I never got to Beaver
We learned
Island.
about that. And
Oh, you did an internship there, Emily?
yes, I did.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Wow.
In Beaver Island?
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
4
wow.
long, glorious days.
That's
4 days.
so cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, because we were there cataloging a gentleman's private collection of items that he had collected from a ship called the SS Great Eastern.
Hmm.
The ship
Wow.
laid down the transatlantic cable in 1866 and even had some of the cables that they preserved that were laid down in the Atlantic Ocean just to make sure that, so it helped people to say send telegrams across the Atlantic Ocean and get them in minutes as opposed to like hours and days and weeks.
Yeah.
Mhm.
That's
Wow.
cool.
That's really interesting.
There's an entire book about the guy, the Mormon king, called the King of Confidence. And
Yeah.
Right, I ordered it, so I know it has to be on our shelves at this point.
Jesse's Strain or something like that, I thought.
Yes, yes, he was a very interesting character. Anyway, so it's 8:08 right now, so we might as well get back. So, do you guys have any questions for us in regards to our travels to Milwaukee, Wisconsin?
Emily, this is Teresa. I was wondering, were you able to get out in the evenings? I know you had the wedding the one night, but did you see any live music, or did you guys go out to dinner?
We went out to dinner plenty of times. Like that one night we went to the Nowhere Pub, and the other night we had a Safe House.
And then as far as what I did in Elkhart, the Press Association, they have an annual thing where we go to a small tavern out in downtown Elkhart Lake during the evening, and they make a point for us to try to fish in the spotted cow as well. And for that particular year, Ford was actually showing off the Ford GT. So they actually had the GT parked right in front of the tavern, so people could literally get pictures of it, get a better look at it when they were walking up to the tavern. So it was pretty cool on that end of things as well.
Wow.
That's like the modern GT, not the GT90 or 40 or anything.
Yeah, the modern one.
Yeah.
Yeah, as for live events, we didn't go into any live events. I mean, I don't know if there were any that were happening during the week that we went. It was like right before Memorial Day weekend. Although if we're ever there next time, I'm sure we'll make it on our list to at least attend one live event.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody have any other questions?
We know you have something to show them.
Oh, absolutely. In fact, for those who don't register for this program, you have a grab bag waiting for you if you haven't picked it up. And the grab bag, as Joanne had described, it will have a short bibliography of books and ebooks that you can get through the library and through Hoopla and Libby. And you can also get these turkey sticks. So mostly you should have 2 turkey sticks, or if you signed up as like a group of 2, you would get 4 of these turkey sticks. And 1 of this string cheese, or if you signed up with 2, you would get 2 string cheeses. And both of these are made by Wisconsin companies. So pure Wisconsin meat and cheese.
And I will say, for the record, we did explore the possibilities of including cheese curds into the grab bags, but due to the surprising amount of logistical challenges that come with keeping cheese curds properly refrigerated and properly stored, we were unable to put those in. But we hope that the turkey sticks and the cheese sticks will be a nice consolation prize for you all.
Absolutely. And hey, if you ever feel like the need for having cheese curds, you can always go to your local Culver's, which is originated in Wisconsin. So does anybody have any questions or comments they would like to add about this presentation?
Would you go back to Milwaukee again?
Yes.
Definitely.
Mm-hmm. And especially to take Carl to the Public Museum and the Art Museum.
And I won't be able to hide at the track either.
That was really good, Emily. I thought the museums, I would love to check those out. And I'm glad you guys have been adding all those trivia challenges on Instagram. So I think I got a few of them right. But yeah, the moving museum, that was pretty neat.
Absolutely.
And I hope you guys also enjoyed the Road America segment of the presentation as well. When I was talking about it with Emily a short while ago, she was looking for ways to spice things up a bit, and I just told her, well, hey, put in Road America, add a nice angle to it. And I hope you guys enjoyed that little spin on things with that segment of the presentation.
Yeah, very nice job, both of you. It's really interesting to learn about that aspect of Milwaukee. Didn't know there was really that much to it.
Yeah, well, see, now we know Tim. We all know Tim likes planes, but I
Oh,
never
God,
knew
yeah.
you liked the cars.
Oh yeah, I'm a overall transportation nut. So
Yeah, very nice. Well, now you know that Milwaukee is a great tourist destination. And now, one thing that we did leave off on this presentation was that on the day that we went, I believe we went to the Harley Davidson Museum. We actually went to an ice cream shop in downtown Milwaukee where they literally served, and I kid you not, whiskey flavored ice cream. I believe it was called something like the Purple Cow.
Yeah, I think it was called the Purple Cow.
Yeah, like, it was a really good frozen custard there. It was delicious.
Yeah, we had a presentation length. Keep that one out of the main presentation, but Purple Cow is definitely another local Wisconsin business that we highly recommend if you're ever in the area, because it's like what Emily said. I mean, Milwaukee may seem like it might not have a lot to offer at first glance, but as you peel back the layers, like you would say on a one of the provided sticks of string cheese, there's definitely a lot more that lurks underneath the surface, and a lot of that is actually a very interesting and compelling.
Well, my late husband's favorite things in Milwaukee were some we couldn't put in any grab bags because their breweries are wonderful.
Yes.
Yeah, so we couldn't do that, but he would buy it, try it, and then bring the empty can home or the bottle. And he had a big collection.
Oh, that's great. Well, hey, that's why we mentioned about the PBR and the spotted cow.
Mm-hmm.
We couldn't leave Milwaukee breweries out, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I want to try those cheese curds sometimes, though, because that sounded really good till you said about how hard it was to keep for the grab bag.
Yeah, I know. I'm glad that, Joanna, I'm glad you and Carl talked me out of that.
Did you say Culver's have the cheese curd?
Yes. Yeah, there's even Culver's that's on Sasha Ball right before you get to the highway. Oh, those cheese curds are definitely worth it.
Yeah, it's just as far as the ones for the grab bag one, you'd be amazed at some of the logistical challenges that appear when it comes to cheese curds. I couldn't believe it, but eventually we just had to face the music and reluctantly keep the cheese curds out of the grab bags.
Exactly. But I'm glad that Joanne did find a nice consolation prize.
Yeah, we've been trying real hard too, because we have to get everything individually wrapped. It's not like when we do the food presentation at the Travels in Person. So we can't like get something and then wrap it up either. So we buy everything pre-packaged.
Yes, fair enough. Right. Does anybody have any questions or comments they'd like to add about the presentation?
Oh, I did want to say that to thank the Friends of the Library for the monies they give us for the program and for the food.
Right. Well, this is the end, and we do want to add one thing. That we do have a little sad news, as Joanne will be retiring from the library. This will be her last travel program, but we hope to see her for future travel presentations and just anywhere around, even at the library.
Oh, thank you. But if it stays virtual, I can still be there.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or if I stay in the area, I can still come, but I'll be the attendee.
I can't present without you, Joanne.
Pardon?
I can't present without you. You can't go anywhere.
Okay. I will keep that in mind, Teresa. No, since I've been there 19 and a half years, and I'm turning 79.
Yeah.
And I've been working since I was 16. It's time.
Yep. Well, congratulations on your retirement.
Thank you. My last day is a week from Friday.
Wow.
if I get everything done I'm supposed to do before the 28th. But I'll keep in touch with everybody.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, I
Well,
wouldn't want to lose that contact.
at least we know we'll see you around. At least it's not just a we'll miss you, but we'll see you.
Yeah, thanks, Emily.
Good way of putting it, Emily.
It's been so much fun working with Emily, and I do miss being in the library, but it would be hard for me right now to come back and work at the library. Plus, my doctors have me using a walker now instead of the cane, so that would make it more difficult too. But my daughter and son-in-law are happy because they want to find a house, but they didn't want me to retire because they wanted to leave. They live with me right now, to leave and find their own place. So they were so thrilled when I said I was retiring. They can go now and look for a place.
Wow, I see. All right, well, we might as well end this presentation. So have a good night, everybody, and I hope you had a great time. And yes,
Thank you. And if you go back to Milwaukee again, add on the new stuff.
oh, we will.
We will. We will for sure.
Yep. Time this presentation will be turned into a YouTube link, hopefully soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think the recording, Emily's on your side now. So just at the bottom there.